The play-by-play Student Sports Network. The best students of sports. Welcome everybody to the Student Sports Report. I am your host, and today we have reports on all the stuff going on around the sports world. We are going to start in the NFL and bring on Noah, who has a report out of Denver. Noah?
I'm Noah Bogle here, just outside Mile High Stadium, where the Broncos have a big looming decision this offseason, whether or not what to do with the quarterback decision. They could either keep Russell Wilson or trade him to a different team. This offseason, it's a great quarterback class with Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels. Or they could opt for a different option and sign a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield. Another chance or another opportunity is to possibly trade up with the Patriots and give up Patrick Surtain the 12th overall pick and draft Jaden Daniels, or they could sit tight and draft J.J. McCarthy.
All right. Thank you, Noah. Quick question about what's going on there in Denver. Russell Wilson seems to be pretty confident that he'll be back, but the odds right now say he's favored to probably be the starter in Pittsburgh next year. What do you think? Why do you think Russell's so confident when everybody else thinks he's going to be heading out of town?
I think Russell Wilson thought he had a strong season this season, but he was just treated unfairly, and that he still thinks he has a great opportunity to win in Denver, but fans aren't a huge fan of him. The ownership isn't a huge fan of him. He's overpaid. So I think opting for a younger or cheaper option would be better. Ideal fit for the Denver Broncos here.
All right. Sean Payton has never really had success with a younger quarterback. Do you think he would possibly prefer the veteran options of someone like Kirk Cousins?
I think he'd actually prefer starting with the younger quarterback and starting fresh and developing the younger quarterback into a star and mold him into what he wants him to be, such as J.J. McCarthy, where he's pretty raw, but he can run, he can make plays. So I think that could be a big possibility for the Broncos.
All right. Thank you. We'll have you back later in the show to talk about the running back situation in NFL free agency that's currently occurring. Well, we're going to stay in division, and we're going to talk about another team that has some quarterback questions. We're going to bring on Walter Aston. I added an L to his name. Walter, you have a report going on with the arch rival of the Denver Broncos. That would be the Las Vegas Raiders. What's going on in Las Vegas, Walter?
Well, the Raiders are kind of in the same situation the Broncos are. They do need a quarterback pretty desperately. I mean, I think Aiden O'Connell in the games he played pretty well. But so I think in the offseason, what they are looking to do is maybe they can keep Aiden O'Connell and just maybe he might get the job done. Or what I think the most reasonable thing they do is trade up and in the draft and, draft someone like Jaden Daniels, Drake May, maybe Caleb Williams if they get lucky. Or if they don't want to do that, they can just pick up Kirk Cousins or maybe Baker Mayfield.
So they're not in the top of the draft because, well, they had a great part of the season with their new head coach who was interim at the time. He's obviously a defensive-minded head coach. Do you think maybe that he's okay sitting back and waiting in the second or third round in this deep quarterback draft to find his possible franchise quarterback and have him just relax behind O'Connell? How do you think he would feel about that in Antonio Pierce?
I feel like in the second and third round, you could find like somebody like J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix Jr. So I feel like that is a good quarterback option. But I just don't know right now how they will play in the NFL. But I think with those two players, you could definitely get something out of them. Or if they want to wait behind O'Connell another season, we'll see how that goes when he plays a full season.
Yep, in a pretty good end of the season. See if he can grow for the Walter. Will be back in the Bay Area later talking with you about the Warriors. Talk to you then. All right. Well, we talked about the the Las Vegas Raiders, for a little bit. Let's continue that conversation by talking about their star wide receiver Davante Adams and his possibilities of staying in Las Vegas or moving on. Nathan Berkman has that report for us. Nathan, what do you have on Davante Adams?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. He showed his 100% commitment to the Raiders. That's kind of surprising because there was a lot of offseason rumors that he was gonna go to the Jets. You have the connection in Green Bay between Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. And this year, all regular season, the Jets were lacking that wide receiver. I think it's really important for this Raiders offense that you have a key foundation. There's Devontae Adams, when healthy, is a top 5 wide receiver. And if you build the right quarterback in the draft, like Walter was saying before, and then you have a great receiver around him, it's a good start for this offense. And then you have Josh Jacobs, the running back free agent. If you can keep him, and then you can build the right quarterback around him, it's a great start for the offense. So I think that couldn't have been any more news. It's surprising, but the best news possible for the Raiders.
Best news. So how big of a role do you think that new head coach that we just talked about, Antonio Pierce, played in that with his resurgence of this team in the second half of the season?
100%. I don't know if he was going to. I think Antonio Pierce is the type of coach where he does everything for the players like him. He's a players first coach. He did everything to support the players. Almost every single player showed support and liked him. So I think that played a huge part. So I think if maybe they didn't have that hire, he could be gone. 100% he loved him.
All right. So obviously Antonio Pierce talked about, made a big change. We'll see how he can affect this team heading into next year. Walter or Nathan, when we see you come back, we'll talk some college basketball as we head into the month of March. We'll see you in a little bit. So, there we go. So we talked about the free agent running backs very briefly there. Nathan touched on Josh Jacobs. To get a bigger view on what's going on with free agency in the running backs room, we go back to Noah. Noah, there are a bunch of big names in the free agency running back room. Give us what you have, updates on all of them.
Yeah, this is one of the deepest running back classes in recent history with Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, and DeAndre Swift. And they all do not appear to be franchise tag this year, as it's very expensive franchise tag with it's around $11 million. And teams are just not willing to pay that much for a running back on 1 year rental. And teams like the Texans, Cowboys, Eagles, and Ravens are teams to look out for guys like these. And Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry can make these teams extremely dangerous down the stretch, as they can really improve their run game a lot.
All right. All fantastic names. Who do you think the top guy that will wind up getting the largest contract? Do you think it's Derrick Henry, or do you think it's Josh Jacobs, who's been so consistent over the last 3 years? And obviously maybe the most talented on Saquon, but he's had some injury issues.
Yeah, I think Saquon's going to get paid the most this offseason because Derrick Henry is starting to get a little older at age 29. Josh Jacobs dealt some injuries last year. He only had about 800 yards. Saquon Barkley's still dealt with some injuries, but he's by far the youngest, most explosive, most versatile. So I think he could be incoming for a big payday and not be getting franchise tag like he did last year. So
one more question for you, Noakes. This is the last conversation we'll have during the show. One guy that isn't a superstar but had an unbelievable part of last year when he was the focus back in Indianapolis was Zach Moss. How do you see Zach Moss landing among these free agents when he had some stellar weeks filling in for Jonathan Taylor while Jonathan Taylor was out last year?
Yeah, I think Zach Moss could become an RB1 for a team looking for a running back because he's very explosive, very powerful, and he just isn't used in Indianapolis right now with Jonathan Taylor becoming back healthy. So he could definitely be on the move and coming for a big payday along with him. Chance he can probably get like 1 year or 2 years, $12 million, pretty decent contract for a running back. He's definitely a solid running back on the market along with these other guys.
All right, we'll see how it all shakes out. It'll be interesting because, like we said, the NFL is not a running back league anymore. Thank you for both reports, Noah. Appreciate you tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to head to some round ball. We're going to start on the pro court and then let's start with the college court because we haven't heard from Nolan Patuto yet. Nolan's talking about the BC Eagles, a team that started off incredibly hot in the beginning of the season, but now they're going to have a heck of an end of the season to make the tournament. Nolan, what do you have on the BC Eagles?
The BC Eagles had the best start to college basketball in the last 30 years with a starting record of 12-5. And now they sit 15-12 in the AC with a total record 15-12. They've lost 9 of the last 12 games, and they've only won 3 of those games. And for them to make the NCAA tournament, they need to win out the ACC tournament and win the whole thing, or come second. And one game they definitely need to win to give themselves a good chance to win the ACC tournament is they need to beat Virginia this week. They obviously see the watch last year. They upset Virginia, and they're looking to do it again. But
all right, so what team do you think would be the biggest upset, them being Duke or North Carolina finding a way to the finals? They might have to beat them both. What do you think their chances of being able to get out of the ACC tournament with a victory is, Nolan?
I say a 50%. I mean, the teams in the ACC right now, even like Duke and UNC, they're not doing as good as people thought they would. So it's anyone's chance to win it, even lose those chances. 8-19. Anybody has a chance to win the ACC tournament.
All right. Well, so we'll have to see if they can do that. We'll be back to you to talk about a different bird, an Oriole, with the last story of our evening, possibly. We'll see in a little bit, Nolan. Whoop, get rid of Nolan. That dude. There we go. And now we'll head to the college, or stay in the college game as we head to Nathan Verkman to talk about St. John's in the Big East, a team that is right on the bubble, but with an easy schedule down the stretch, so a possibility for the Red Storm to make their way into the March Madness. Nathan, what do we have about the Red Storm in New York City?
Yeah, they're coming off that incredible 15-point win over Creighton, one of their best performances. But for them to have any chance of any dream of any hope to get to the tournament, they're going to have to win at Butler, or they're going to have to win the entire Big East tournament. But to get an at-large win, they're going to have to win at Butler. And this is like a tough game. Winning on the road in college basketball is very underestimated. We've seen a lot of top 5 teams lose on the road. And for St. John's to win this game, they're going to need their top 2 players to step up. Dennis Jenkins has been really good all season. But I think what can make this St. John's team go on a big run is Jordan Dingle. Jordan Dingle is considered one of their better players before, but he struggled. But if he can average 15 to 20 points per game, this team's going to go on a run and make a deep run and get to March. So for St. John's to have any chance, win this game and win your next 2. And also, Butler has the former St. John's point guard Posh Alexander, so they're gonna have to figure out a way to beat him.
All right. Obviously, Rick Pitino's kind of been in the news lately with his St. John's team talking about the disappointment. How do you think that's going to affect the St. John's team down the stretch?
I actually think it's a good thing. It's controversial. St. John's point guard Dennis Jenkins actually said even though very controversial and had a lot of publicity, said it actually united them. Him saying those things unite them and brought them closer together. And as a result, they have one of the best wins in the country, a 15-point home win over Creighton, one of the better teams in the country. What he said, he was wrong, but I think it's uniting them. And what's the most important thing in college basketball is to get hot at the right time. And you always want to get hot before March Madness.
All right, so to see what they do tomorrow night, like you said, the biggest game of their season, if they want to stick in the March Madness picture without having to win the whole tournament, is tomorrow in Indiana at Butler. Thank you for both your reports, Nathan, tonight. We appreciate all your information.
No problem.
All right, so now we'll stick with round ball. We're going to go to the pro court, a team that was a dynasty. And can they stick around? Walter Aston is sticking in. He's obviously our Bay Area specialist, talking about the Golden State Warriors. Walter, what do you have on the Warriors?
Okay, and oh wait, I'm in the wrong notes. Well, today the question is, can the Warriors dynasty get one more championship? Is their championship window still open? In my opinion, I think it is, as long as you have Curry and Clay. I know Clay hasn't been playing great, but if he gets back to his normal self, I definitely think there's a possibility that you can get another championship in there. Even though I know the West, I think it's just a joke. I don't really think there's that much competition. And there's Jokic and the Nuggets, and they're all playing really well. But I think the Warriors definitely do have a chance. It's the East. If they get to the finals, that's going to be a problem. But another question is, can Wiggins and Clay get back to what they were before, defensively and offensively? And then the last one is, will the outburst of Kuminga, maybe propel them further into the playoffs, maybe get them a championship? And and that can definitely help them claim their 5th championship in the last 10 years.
All right, so 5th championship in 10 years would be amazing. What's the feeling among the fans out there in the Bay Area? Are they positive on this team, or is it kind of just like a kind of a last hope because they feel like this is the last chance, the last year that they could possibly pull off a miracle run?
I think they're positive. I mean, they started off the year pretty badly, but I think they've definitely been playing better. They did lose last game to the Nuggets, which wasn't great, but other than that, I think they have gotten themselves together, and I think putting Clay on the bench was the right decision too. And so I think with the fans, I think they are just positive and maybe hope that they can get another championship in before this dynasty comes to an end.
Obviously 8-2 in their last 10, but unfortunately haven't been able to catch up to the Lakers or Mavericks, so they both been hot as well. Which team do you think the Warriors don't want to see in that playing game if they get stuck in the play-in situation? Between right now the Kings, the Mavericks, and the Lakers, which of those three teams do you not want to see
I
in
don't
that
want
first
to
round?
see Sacramento. I mean, like, we can beat them, but I think they are really well-rounded with Sabonis. They got Monk on the bench. Kevin Huerter's still a good player. You also have De'Aaron Fox, Murray. I think that's just a team you don't want to see because other teams like the Lakers and Mavericks, I think absolutely the Warriors can beat them. But I just think the Kings would be a problem, and I don't want to see them in the play-in.
All right, thank you, Walter. We have one last story, or we have two more stories tonight. First, we're going to go to baseball in the Baltimore area. And Nolan Patuto has this story on last year's AL East champion, Baltimore Orioles. Nolan.
Yeah, so last year the Orioles won the AL East for the first time since 2013 with a record of 101-61. And this year they have high expectations as in the offseason they got pitcher Corbin Burns from the Brewers to improve their pitching lineup and the starting pitching. And for the third straight year they have number one overall prospect Jackson Holliday, who is supposed to make a big impact this season if they call him up. And lastly, Adley Rutschman, their catcher, is an upcoming superstar and maybe one of the next best generations of talent we'll see in Baltimore. As he had quite the season last year, he's looking to build off of that performance from last year and bring into this year and have a really, really good season.
All right, you talked about their hitters and their young talent and also them bolstering their starting pitching staff. The one question they might still have is their bullpen. How's it looking in the bullpen there for them, Nolan?
The bullpen is looking good. I mean, there's not really like big guys. Like Felix Bautista is out for this year, but besides that, the rest of them for like the whole season. But besides that, their bullpen's looking really strong, and it's looking like their bullpen is like has helping them like people to show that they are contenders for a World Series in these next 10 years, or maybe 15 years.
No, obviously
depending on
battling
how
it out
they
with
keep their prospects.
They'll be battling out with the boys in the Bronx this season for the AL East Championship. To see what happens, we'll be rooting for the O's. Thank you, Nolan. All right, one last story. We're going to bring on Oakland Alameda Coliseum Charlie Slavin to talk about the Oakland A's and what they've got going on, what their chances are possibly of staying in Oakland, going to Vegas. What's going on out there in Oakland, Charlie?
So, thank you so much for the introduction, first of all. And also, so what a lot of things I've recently found have been that the Oakland Athletics could possibly be disbanding altogether, could not exist for 3 seasons until this stadium gets built, or they could be moving to Sacramento or Salt Lake City or staying in Oakland, and then they'll have to take down a staple of Las Vegas, the Tropicana Hotel, and then also the stadium's not going to get built to 2028.
All right, so we'll have to see what happens with them, Charlie. What do you think the best situation is for the next 3 years? Do you think it's staying in Oakland and somehow making it work out, or you think it's better to go somewhere like Sacramento or Salt Lake City?
Honestly, I think for the fans, you would want to stay in Oakland, but I also think Sacramento would be a good idea because it's close to Oakland and it's in California, so you're not leaving the state right away. And
All right.
Or Salt Lake City could work because you could get the fans used to not being in the same state.
All right, sounds good. I guess we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for your report, Charlie. Appreciate it, bud. This has been the Student Sports Report. We'll see you next time with other huge sports stories going on in the world of sports. The Play-by-Play Student Sports Network. The best students of sports.